Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, step right up and enter our world. A warning to all, a word of beware. This isn't your normal paranormal affair. The strong man's inside. The wolf boy is too. There's a frozen Neanderthal and a bearded lady to boot. The admission is free, no fee to come near. Your stories you'll hear, born of horror and fear. A Bigfoot sighting is certain, a ghost story or two, an alien abduction, or a conspiracy brood. We're the collectors of stories, testimonies of the weird. Yes, soon you'll learn much of the world the normal ones fear. Welcome to the Paranormal Sideshow with your host, John and Stacey Edwards of ParanormalSideshow.com.
Hello and welcome to the Paranormal Sideshow. I'm your host, John Edwards, and joined as always by my lovely wife, Stacey.
Hello.
And we've got an awesome show for you guys today, considering it's the We Made It Back from Tennessee, a live episode.
Yes.
You know, maybe it's going to be a great episode. Maybe it's going to be better than the last episode if the last episode is actually remembered correctly.
Could be different.
You never know.
That's right.
It could be the Mandela Effect.
Which is what we're talking about
And
today.
Oddly enough, we're going to talk about that today, but we're not going to talk about it alone in our main attraction.
We aren't.
We're going to have some friends along for the ride, and one of those friends you've heard before, Travis Moulden, is going to be along, and he's been doing all his Mandela-isms, trying to figure everything out for a couple of days. I think we've drove him insane.
Probably.
And we're also going to have
Alan Marston for the first time.
For the first time ever.
Yes.
Long time listener, first time caller. I'm very excited to have Alan on the show. Alan actually did the original artwork for the sideshow.
Yes, the first picture that we had.
Right. The one before the tent.
Yes.
That's what we shall name it. No, he did a great job on that, and Alan's been a friend of ours since way back in Haunted South times.
Yes.
We've investigated with Alan, and we have theorized with Alan, and we've done a lot of cool stuff, including show him the way to ParanormalSideshow.com. That's where you go to find everything out about Alan and Travis and other stuff. Facebook.com/ParanormalSideshow. On the Twitter, it's @Sideshow97, and on Instagram, hot damn, it's John and Stacey Edwards. And on YouTube, just search Paranormal Sideshow, and you're going to find all kinds of cool stuff, including documentaries, short little EVP outtakes, Stacey scared crapless inside a closet, and all kinds of fun stuff. That will all be available on ParanormalSideshow.com if you just go there. And if you're an iTunes listener and lover like I am, please go and subscribe to our podcast and leave a nice, solid, loving, tender, hugging, Christmas holiday time of the year kind of review for us, because that would be beautiful and we would love you very much for that.
Yes.
So going back to the Tennessee thing.
Yes.
So we had a long trek.
It was so long.
It was very long.
So long.
It was the longest trip ever.
It's a long drive.
It's a very long drive. So we went all the way down the eastern seaboard, and we went to Tennessee for a top secret reason.
Yes.
And I'm not going to tell any of it, so you don't have to be worried about that. I will say, however, that it was an amazing opportunity.
Yes.
I met some even more amazing people.
Oh, such nice people.
I had a wonderful time. And I met some of the most professional, most courteous, and really for a guy like me who's done a lot of, local and amateurish type stuff throughout my life. I shouldn't say amateurish, but it was really cool being around. And I can't tell you what kind of thing it was, but God, I've done everything. So it could have been.
It could be anything.
I could have been with a band. You never know. It was nice and wonderful people, and it really I met some people that blew my mind with how courteous they were and some of their experiences, and it was really great. And I can't wait to share all this with you guys. And I want to share it so bad, and I will be able to very soon, but I just don't want to say anything yet. And there's more great opportunities to come. I'm very blessed and thankful for the opportunity I had.
Yes.
But there are some more opportunities in the works, so very excited about that as well.
Hopefully we'll have some really good news to share
in
the future.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But speaking of the past few days,
right?
You made your first ever fresh off the kill bird.
Oh my gosh, my first Thanksgiving turkey. And I might say that for my first turkey, it was humongous.
Oh,
the
yeah.
thing was 25 pounds. I barely got it out of the oven.
Yeah, it was the biggest one you ever had, wasn't it?
Don't people always say that, though?
Well, I mean, do they?
I don't know.
Do they? Is that a thing?
I don't know.
That's good to
It
know.
was my first turkey that I ever cooked on my own.
Right. No, it was.
And I think it turned out pretty good.
I mean, we are a long way from relatives. We're by ourselves, and we kind of do that. We're gypsies with a house. We stay packed up most of the time because we take opportunities as they come, and we like to live life by the seat of the pants.
Yes.
And just go with our fun, go with our hearts.
Yeah, we can literally pick up and move in 2 days.
In 2 days, and be completely happy and okay with that.
Yeah.
So have show will travel kind of thing.
Exactly.
The bird though was amazing.
It was so good.
And the weird thing was when I was getting this turkey,
Yes.
okay, I was shown pictures of the turkey from the previous Saturday.
Well, it's the first time we didn't go to the grocery store and buy a frozen turkey.
You don't understand how strange this was for me. Okay, because I am not it's weird because I'm a tree hugger,
Right.
but I'm not a vegetarian.
Right.
And it's kind of, normally you're normally a vegetarian.
Right.
And I'm not. I love meat.
I do too.
and I can't get away from that.
Did he tell you the bird's name or anything? Or
I
did
didn't
he just
want-
show you a picture
I
of it and go,
I didn't want to know the bird's name.
here's the turkey you're going to eat.
I seen that goofy looking turkey, and it was so cute. And then it was so huge.
And then you brought it home in a cooler.
Yeah, then I brought it home in a cooler. Boy, isn't that always the way, right?
I tell you, this is the first time, I know it's the first time I ever cooked a Thanksgiving turkey, but I mean, I have made some birds before, chickens and things.
Right.
This is the first time I ever had to actually pick the remaining feathers out of the turkey before I cooked it.
Wow, you never know.
There was one or two stray
You never know what I'm going to bring home in my trunk.
in
huh?
the cooler. Yeah.
Well, it was great. Very much enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I want to take a second here before we go into the news and talk about something. Tonight, we're going to be talking about the Mandela Effect in our main attraction.
Yes.
There's a lot of varying views on this, as there should be, because this one it's not controversial as much as it is. Some people remember it one way. Some people remember it another way.
Right. Some people just don't believe in the Mandela Effect.
Right. And you know what? That's completely okay. The thing about this show, and the thing since day one, when we first did our first episode of Haunted South 6 long years ago, we have always stood by the fact of being respectful. We've been respectful to our guests, no matter what they're talking about, and we've had some humdingers.
Yeah. And I mean, we don't always agree
No.
with the stuff that people say on our show, but we don't disagree with them on the show.
Right,
We
right.
don't try to push our opinions on them. So.
Right, not at all. What we want to do is we want to give an objective, point of view. We do say what we think, but we don't tell you what.
Of course we do.
We don't tell you what we want you to think. I might from time to time if it's, if I'm very passionate about it. But, basically I'm giving somewhat of a mission statement, and not to bore you down or take the fun level down any, but I just wanted to get that out there that it's okay to have different opinions. In today's climate, in today's world, we see a lot of people that aren't okay with each other having different opinions.
Right.
I'm one of those people. I like a good argument. Go watch Monty Python with the argument clinic. I like a good fun-filled argument where you can actually laugh and,
Right.
and have your own opinions. And really, we're here to entertain, yes, and we would love to teach and share our theories and hear your theories. But most of all, we really want to inspire you. We want to inspire you to go crack open a book, go research, go to your library, go watch a video on YouTube even, go watch a documentary, and hopefully that we inspire you to, find out some for yourself and form
Right.
your own opinion.
Right. Because, I mean, we like to introduce the topics and kind of talk about them a little bit, but we're not going to go so, like, if you want more in-depth study on it,
Right.
just go find out.
Right. And if you
Just
really
let
want,
us be the springboard for that.
exactly. And if you really want some, more, you're going to want some more news. And I really think, oh my God, we're so past time for the news.
Okay, so let's get to some paranormal news.
Let's.
All right, so this first story is about something strange they found in Peru.
Really?
How many stories could I do that start off like that?
Peruvians?
No, not Peruvians. This is a story about a researcher in Peru
I got there and there was a whole country full of them.
who found
The strangest thing I ever seen.
he came into
They
possession.
considered me a giant.
I was 6 feet tall. A researcher in Peru came into the possession of a strange humanoid figure, not a Peruvian,
Okay, all right. I'm done. I'm not going to interrupt.
that some suspect may be the mummified remains of an alien.
Oh.
Yes.
Peruvian aliens. That has actually been done before. I think in a desert in Peru,
Perhaps.
I believe there was something somewhere along the line that I read about a mummified alien in Peru. Weird. Maybe it's a Mandela Effect thing. Go ahead.
Anyway, this story talks about a man named Brian Forster, and he says that he found the artifact in a cave located in the southern desert of Peru, and it's like a skull-looking thing. And in addition, he also found like little bodies, like mummified-looking little bodies.
Tiny ones?
Yeah, I guess so. It doesn't really say what size they were, but he is hoping to have the material subjected to DNA testing to see if anything comes out of that and see if it actually can be identified.
Wow. Well, go team.
Some people, of course, are expressing their skepticism, saying that it's fake or a fabrication, or he's just trying to get
Do
attention.
you think there's paid skeptics out there?
You know what?
On a payroll somewhere, like when you're doing a
Perhaps.
story for like the Times or something like that, they're like, hey, could you call Jimmy and get Jimmy on the phone and be like, what are you talking about today?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, they say they found Peruvian mini aliens. We were just wondering if you had a comment on that, Jimmy. I don't believe it to be true. I've been around for a long time, and this whole time, I haven't seen anything other than what I've seen in these books that have to be true because they come from our United States government. I mean, oh my God. It's just like they've got people on a payroll because there's always like the skeptic,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, of course, people are always going to come out and try to disinform you, I suppose. And also, this comes just a couple months after the whole Mexico winged ferry fiasco that they thought was real, and then they did all this stuff on it. But
we
they did.
hoped it was real.
Yeah. Well, they did come out and say that they figured out it was. At least they did the tests. And they found out it was fake, and they said it was fake. So,
when you're going to do a fake thing, though, I would really wish you would just like go buy that Velcro. Mm-hmm. Something where it's really obvious. You got duct tape on the back, with
like
some,
a big zipper. In the front.
like some of those kids' fairy wings on the back of a cat. It was a flying cat. Have fun with it.
Oh goodness.
The Bigfoot suit where you could see the Wrangler symbol, where it connects.
and they're wearing like real shoes.
Right. Exactly.
Well, we'll just have to keep up with that one and see if they actually get the testing done and see what it is.
The
pictures are kind of cool.
Honestly, and I know that you can go to paranormalsideshow.com and see those, but honestly, I really remember, and I don't usually do this on the show if I don't have the information correctly.
Right.
I really remember a story similar to this a while back.
I kind of do too, and it might have been something similar to this. Who knows? They always find.
Like a long time ago.
Yeah,
it just kind of, it
perhaps.
rang a bell, and I even said Peruvian desert.
Maybe before I do the blog on the website, I'll look and see if I can find it.
Cool. All right.
Yeah. Okay. So anyway, let's go on to another discovery. This one in Mexico at Chichen Itza.
Ah, Chichen Itza.
Yes. So there is a pyramid there at the Chichen Itza, ruins.
Yes.
And it's called the Kukulkan Pyramid.
It's called the what?
Kukulkan?
The what?
Don't make me say it
Okay,
again.
I'm sorry.
Anyway, so they actually have found a second structure inside this pyramid.
All I could think of was Mulcahy Culkin.
That's Culkin.
Oh, yeah, okay. That's all I see is like a big shrine to him in Mexico.
Anyway.
Home Alone face, though, not like crazy Mulcahy Culkin.
Okay. Anyway.
Yeah.
So Chichen Itza, if you don't know that much about it, it was founded about the 6th century and presumably by the Maya peoples.
Yes.
Okay. Just make sure you're
not going to say anything.
Okay. All right. So they had this pyramid built. And before now, there was like a pyramid, and they knew that there was another pyramid underneath. They already knew about that, but now they found a second like structure inside that, kind of like Russian nesting dolls.
Yeah,
kind of
so it's like the
thing.
nesting pyramid.
I guess so.
Wow.
I don't really know.
So it was one built and then another built and then another built. Well, obviously, but I mean,
Right.
over course of a long time, like maybe it's not Mayans underneath all of that.
Perhaps. I don't know. See, they found the first structure underneath back in the 30s.
Right.
And so now they've just recently found this other one. I guess they just don't go in there and start banging
Well, you
around.
know, like in some of the ruins, they're actually built on top of older ruins.
Mm-hmm.
And people, you know, they think they've got this great discovery, and then they're like, oh, crap, there's
Right.
something 10,000 years older underneath. So,
Yeah, well, they found it with non-invasive imaging technique. They've been using that a lot on ruins and stuff, which is pretty cool. They don't have to actually tear
yeah,
stuff
I'm
down
sure the pyramid's very happy about that.
to find things. But the one that they found, it's not exactly in the center. It's kind of more to the side, and this whole structure's on top of a thing called a cenote.
And that is?
It's a natural pit or like a sinkhole that results when the limestone collapses and then groundwater comes through.
Oh, yeah.
So it was built on top of that. And this particular,
Why would they build their pyramid on top of sinkhole?
let me finish. This particular part in the center is not center of the pyramid. It's over to the side where this cenote is. So they're thinking that they knew that it was there, and they used it for some kind of rituals to some kind of god, and they did human sacrifice there.
Right, okay.
Like a rain god. They didn't say the name of the god.
Right.
So that's what they're thinking, but it's really cool that they actually found this whole new thing inside this. I mean, who would have thought to even look in there?
Right, yeah, absolutely.
I mean, it's a pyramid. You would think that would, I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next story is about a mysterious object that was seen over Japan after the Fukushima earthquake.
Godzilla?
No, not Godzilla. That would be cool, though. So recently there was another earthquake in Japan, a big one,
Yes.
7.4.
Yes, my friend was over there.
And that's true. Was he okay now?
He was on the other side of the country, and I woke him up.
Oh, he wasn't in Japan.
A lot of people checked on him.
Oh, well, that must make him feel loved.
Yes.
Okay, so anyway, there was this big earthquake, and so this teenager that is remaining anonymous, she didn't want to be said who she was. She
Right.
took this video of this odd meteorite type thing that was flying over Japan.
Right.
During the earthquake or right after the
And
earthquake.
this has happened a lot with
It has.
earthquakes and whatnot.
This was shortly
Especially
after
whatnot.
it struck on November 21st. So she was watching it, and at first she thought it was a meteorite, but then she kind of changed her mind and she couldn't figure out what it was.
Right.
So I was watching the video. Have you seen the video?
No.
Okay, so what it is it's very bright, like a meteorite would be.
Mm-hmm.
But when you watch it moving across the sky, it's going very slowly.
Right.
And it kind of looks like it's going up a little bit instead of down.
Oh, that's odd.
Yeah, so a lot of people are like, what is this? This is not a meteorite. Because obviously when you see the meteorites come through, they shoot through really quickly. They get
do.
bright.
There was
it's
just
like
a
they
huge one in
explode.
Florida.
Yeah, it was super bright.
Yeah, like
That
it
one
made
was.
it daytime.
Yeah. So this one's not doing that. And so they don't really know. Nobody really can say what it is.
Could it be Mothra?
I have no idea. I don't think so, though, because there was no Godzilla.
Okay.
So when I watched the video, my impression was, because I did see a couple of people talking about it, and they were commenting on how slow it was moving across the sky and that it was not going the right direction. My thought on it was that the way the angle of it was coming, it was more coming towards her instead of across the sky, and that's why it looked like it was going slower.
Right.
It was still going a lot slower than a regular meteorite.
Right.
So it's very odd. I don't know what it was. I don't know. I don't know anybody else that could say definitively.
Sorry, I was just thinking about it coming toward her, and she's like, "Oh, it's weird. I don't know."
It wasn't going that fast, though. I mean, you could probably run from it.
Everybody would just see the wreckage in the hole, and they'd be like, "Godzilla."
Actually, there was no injuries that this particular earthquake. There actually was not a tsunami. There was a tsunami warning, but I don't think they actually got
Yeah, I mean,
tsunami.
we get all worked up about tsunamis now, obviously because of the couple of major ones we had in the past 15 years.
Right.
And it's always a very scary prospect of the thought of having a tsunami. I mean, a big, large tsunami. But I don't think people understand when there's like a 6-foot wall of water coming on top of what already is.
Yeah.
I mean, that, on these, we're pretty close to the beach, and so we're like at zero. So I mean, when it comes in, that could do a lot of damage itself.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I could. Well, this particular one, there was no nuclear problems. It was all fine. But a lot of people are now thinking this was possibly a UFO because
Right.
of the strange way that it moved.
Maybe it was trying to protect Fukushima.
It could have been, or just checking on it. And this actually comes after the sighting in Italy. There was a supposed UFO sighting in Italy 2 days before the big earthquake there. It was like just a month before, like at the end of October, beginning of November. So there was that one then also. So I thought this one was pretty strange. I'm going to put a link up for the video so everybody can look at it. So you can
Watch the
decide.
skies, traveler. Watch the skies.
You can decide for yourself if it's a UFO, or I'd be interested to know what people think.
All right, I'll look at it too and see. So yeah, let us know. Leave some comments.
All right, so on the same kind of UFO thing, let's talk about this story about a video that
It's hard
was
to say UFO-y, isn't it?
UFO-y,
Is
yeah.
that what you were going to say, and then you went off of it?
I'm not sure. I think I was
Ish.
going to try that.
UFO-ish?
UFO-ish. There you go. That'll work. Okay, so stop saying what I say.
Sorry.
All right, so it was a video uploaded to YouTube in November about the guy was taking a video of the supermoon. You know, we had the supermoon on November 14th. It was huge.
Yes.
It was huge.
It was gigantic.
He was taking pictures, looking at it through a telescope and what kind of thing. And he saw.
seesawed?
He saw
Every time a supermoon comes, that's the first thing I do.
all these little things that he says are UFOs leaving the moon and taking off and flying back behind the moon. And there was a bunch of them, tons of them. He's put this video up. You can watch it, and you. Do
you think they were all on the moon, and then like their leader Fred was like, "Hey guys, isn't tonight the supermoon?" And everybody's like, "Oh crap!" and they real quick scatter around to the dark side,
Maybe
because they knew everybody was going to be watching the supermoon.
It could be. Well, a lot of people. The skeptics, let's talk about the skeptics.
The skeptics
are saying that it's just an optical illusion. That
it's
this is
just
something.
an optical illusion.
One person even said that this is something that you see all the time when you look at the edge of the moon.
Oh yeah, moon crust.
I don't remember ever seeing a lot of little tiny things come off the surface of the moon.
I've seen a holographic blip. I've seen UFOs, but I've never seen like moon dust.
This is like I mean, they're small, but there's a ton of them. They just come off, and then look like they're going around the back. I've never seen anything like that. I don't look at the moon through a telescope, but a lot of people were saying this is just an optical illusion. You see it all the time, so on and so on.
Maybe it is.
And it could be.
Yeah.
It could be. So,
you know, this is an amateur person maybe who looked at it because it was the supermoon.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
exactly. So it could be an optical illusion.
Do your
I've never
research.
seen anything like it. One guy did give the name of the particular optical illusion in some of the comments and said, you could look it up.
I know the name.
What?
NASA hiding the existence of UFOs on the moon.
Is that the name of the
I think that's the official name of that.
the optical illusion.
The optical illusion. Lunar. It's lunar gas.
There you go. That explains everything. All right. So speaking of NASA, let's go on to this. I thought this story.
I like how you say that, like, hello, Jerry.
NASA. This story is about NASA and FEMA.
Oh, God.
Yeah. In the same story. I think the world's coming to an
Jesus.
end. I just thought this was an interesting story. So recently, NASA and FEMA teamed up to rehearse.
To start a summer camp program.
Yeah. Exactly.
Sorry.
They teamed up to do a rehearsal for a scenario in which the Earth gets hit by meteorites, a large one, an asteroid.
Yeah.
Like you see in the movies.
So extinction level.
Yes. And supposedly they've done this kind of thing before, but the scenario this time was much darker. The scenario this time, they were supposed to pretend that an asteroid was going to hit Los Angeles in the year 2020. Right. Wow. And it's 2016. They don't have enough time to.
I used to wish for that, but now not so much.
Not so much. Well, they supposedly in the scenario, they were not able to have enough time to build anything to knock it off course or blow it up or any of those things. So they centered all of their rehearsal around evacuations and what to do in the fallout after it hit and what they would do if it hit land and what they would do if it hit water and that kind of thing. And it was a big deal. I mean, they were there practicing this.
I know what I'm going to do.
What's that?
I'm going to build a super suit. And I am going to make my way to Boston.
Right.
And I'm going to fight, like synth lords and I'm going to fight like I have played Fallout quite a bit. I know how to handle this.
You know exactly what to do.
Absolutely.
The thing I thought was funny about this is during this scenario, they were saying that, they found out about this asteroid. It's going to hit in 4 years. And that was a short amount of time. And it seems to me we've been doing a lot of stories recently about all these asteroids swinging by that we didn't see until like 2 days before it came by.
Here's my question.
Right.
Once again, for my love of history. In the 80s, because of all the Cold War shenanigans, the movie The Day After came out.
Right.
Do you remember that?
Yeah.
The whole world watched that. It scared the drawers off of all of us.
Pretty much.
Every day, it was the first water cooler conversation I remember ever having in elementary school.
Right.
I remember the next day, everybody talking around the water fountain about the movie, about the horrible made-for-TV movie.
Right.
That took I think they had to go through 4 directors before someone would agree to do it.
Right.
Just because they knew like this is making a movie about Jesus kind of thing,
Right.
You just don't want to do it because if you play the part of Jesus, people are going to hate you for the rest of your life.
Yeah, pretty much.
Most of the time. But it was one of those things, and I tell you, after that, everything changed. The Cold War was over, pretty soon thereafter. But Reagan put, I don't know, millions, billions, I'm pretty sure it was billions or trillions of dollars
right.
into the Star Wars program. And it was a space defense program that would use lasers and missiles to prevent us from being hit from nuclear missiles from anyone else.
Right.
Okay. And I know this money was spent. I know this happened. But now we hear about these countries having nuclear missiles or about, meteors coming in or asteroids coming in. It would look like in the days of quantum computers,
right,
when we can figure out there's parallel freaking universes, that we might just be, we could see planets that are so far away that our grandsons' couldn't hope to ever reach.
Right.
And still yet, we have to worry about stuff like this. I just wonder if it's fear mongering.
It could
you know what I'm saying? Like,
right.
Shouldn't we be able to prevent?
I was actually curious with this story if this wasn't a cover for some other kind of
Training?
FEMA training.
Right.
Yeah.
Some kind of
Maybe
training.
they were just using the asteroid thing as
Good call.
as a cover for.
Because Jade Helm didn't go very well at all.
Right. I'm not saying that FEMA's up to anything, but
but it's FEMA.
Yeah. Another thing I thought was funny about this story was they were talking about how the scenario was that they only had 4 years, so they didn't have time to build this, impactor thing. You know what? Build it now. Why wait?
Stop building everything else.
Why wait until you found out that an asteroid's going to hit you in 4 years? If you know that this is something that could deflect an asteroid sometime in the future,
it's like,
build it now. Have it in a garage.
It's just like these towns that are going to be like, they're like, in so many years it's going to be flooded. It's going to be covered with water. Well, you know what? The world changes. Let's move the town.
Yeah, let's move. Let's do something.
Yeah.
Don't wait until, I don't know. I just thought that was really funny.
Yeah.
So anyway, let's move on. Oh, you're going to like this story.
Oh, okay.
This just happened this past Sunday. And this is from Point Pleasant, West Virginia.
Oh, God.
And it was a sighting.
A Mothman sighting?
It was a Mothman sighting with pictures.
Though that's interesting on very many levels,
Yes.
because of some stories I've read recently
Really?
about people that were near Maryland and near West Virginia. And we also went through that area.
We did?
On that day.
We did on Sunday.
Yeah. So go ahead. Continue. I just think it's cool.
Anyway, of course, Mothman's famous Point Pleasant. That was where the sightings were.
If you don't know, go look it up. And
so on Sunday, a man was driving through Point Pleasant, and he was driving along State Route 2, and he said he saw something jumping from tree to tree, and he pulled off the road and he snapped some pictures. And I saw the pictures, and they are very strange.
Right.
They are very strange. Something winged, legs and feet, that kind of thing. Now, the man declined an on-camera interview. He didn't want to be on camera. He didn't want to talk about it, but he did give them the pictures. And it was some kind of creature that appeared to have wings with pointed tips and long legs, kind of bent at a weird angle. And it was really strange. And he actually said that he had just recently moved to Point Pleasant for work. And he didn't really know anything about the legends of Mothman until he had taken these pictures. And I guess people told him.
I can't imagine someone moving to Point Pleasant for work.
I can't imagine them not knowing about the Mothman thing, but it's just because we know about it and everybody we know knows about it.
Yeah, but you'd think if you're driving down Main Street and you seen the statue, you would kind of know that wasn't an old mayor.
You would think so. He claims he didn't really know about it, that much. So
okay,
I don't know, but the pictures were very odd.
Right.
And he did hand them over. He swears that they are real. And of course, the news station kind of asked around town, and of course, the people in town are like, yeah, Mothman's real.
Right.
You know, they all believe.
And if you know the original stories and the original books, I would direct you to Nick Redfern. And if you want to read up, even on his blogs, I'll have Stacey throw up some links from Nick, because he's been there a couple of times, and he is written in depth on Mothman.
Right. Well, some of them, you know, some people believe that the Mothman only appears, he's only sighted before a big catastrophe or some kind of bad, like he's a bad omen. But I would like to point out that this year is actually 50 years since the first sighting. So that's kind of interesting too, I think.
It is interesting.
So anyway, I thought you'd think that was
the stories on Mothman creep me out to the bone, because they're so, the sightings are so real.
Oh, yeah.
You know, when you hear people talk about it, it's just so real.
It is. And it's very, just, I don't know, that one is creepy for me too.
He is an omen. He's a harbinger of death.
So we'll have to watch and see if anything bad happens in West Virginia.
Well,
you know, other than the normal.
other than it being West Virginia.
But that is all my news.
And thank you very much. That was great.
Thank you.
I think it's time for our main attraction.
Honored guest, friends, and marks, we here at the Paranormal Sideshow would ask that those faint of heart or weak of the knees to please switch off this broadcast, as it's time for the supernatural spectacle, a mystery wrapped inside of an enigma and stuffed neatly inside of a Tijuana taco roll. It's now time for our main attraction.
We're talking about something pretty cool this time.
Yes, I think so.
It's the Mandela Effect.
Yes. This actually blew my mind when I found out about it.
I know. I've heard you cussing in the office.
I know. Every time I find another one, I'm like, daggone it.
Yeah. No, literally, people. I have, Stacey does a lot of prep for these things. And out of all the prep I've ever heard, I've never heard her going nuts so many times over it. She was just hollering from, like, our office is down from our bedroom. And I was in there watching, actually watching paranormal videos. Stacey,
what a surprise.
Stacey was hollering, and she was like, "Hey, John, at the end of Charlie Brown, doesn't Linus miss the Great Pumpkin when he's asleep?" And so to let you know a little bit about what this is, I will give it over to Stacey.
What it is basically is that a lot of people seem to remember things in a different way than they actually are. And it's on a very large scale. And the way that this got started was a woman named Fiona Broom. And she was at Dragon Con one year, and she was in the green room. And she was having a conversation with another person who was like a security manager or something like that. And they happened to start talking about, I don't know what the conversation was about, but this other person mentioned Nelson Mandela and how they thought that he had passed away in prison, in the South African prison. And she said that she remembered it that way too. But in actuality, if you look it up, it says that he died in 2013 after he was out of prison. And she talked to a lot of other people who also remembered it the other way. And I don't mean just a fact. I mean, like, they remember seeing the funeral and, you know, book rights from his widow. I mean, just the whole thing. And so she kind of coined the phrase. She says she admits that she didn't know if it was her or the other guy that kind of coined the phrase, the Mandela Effect, because of this. But she started using it. She started a website where you can go and find all kinds of examples of the Mandela Effect, and some of them are just crazy.
Right. And, you know, interestingly enough, on the Nelson Mandela thing, there's actually a nonfiction book from 1991.
Right.
That says in there
that he died.
That he died, and you can find this. Yeah. You know, so they've apologized. The people who made the book have apologized for the faux pas, but still, yeah, it's part of that strangeness. It's that rabbit hole we're getting ready to dive into, and we're going to dive into it with a couple of Mad Hatters of ours. We have some friends and really just brothers of the show, part of our small little tight-knit group that we've investigated with in the past. We've shared theories and really just bonded with, and we like to bring them on. Travis Moulden, who we have had on the show a couple of times before.
Yes.
And even on the, you know, going back old school, even on Haunted South. Travis and I have been side by side for many a year now. And Alan Marston, who we told you about earlier. Alan is a longtime listener, first time caller. Alan's been a friend of ours for a few years now. We actually investigated Appomattox Courthouse with Alan.
Yes, that was really cool.
Which was awesome. And from there, Alan has really spread his wings and been a huge part of many paranormal societies out there, and contributor of theories and ideas and thoughts, and avid forum user. So once Alan started, thinking and spitting them out, it really hasn't stopped in a good way.
In a good way, yes.
So I love both these guys because they challenge me. They're sort of my the yin to my yang on some of my on some of my theories.
They're your sounding board, aren't they?
Yeah, on some of my thoughts.
Yeah.
So Travis and Alan, glad to have you with us.
Glad to be here. Thanks for having us.
I'll start this off. We're gonna do this the creepy way that we do it.
Give some examples.
So before we get into theories and before we get into ideas of what this could possibly be,
The why and how.
or the evil man behind the curtain causing all of it,
Right.
let's give a few examples.
Okay.
Sound like fun?
Yes, I think so.
All right. Well, we drew straws beforehand, and I got the shortest one, so I'll go first.
Okay.
I'm going to talk about the one that actually got me into this. And this is funny because it's not that I seen something about the Mandela Effect.
Right.
It's because I seen the difference.
Yes.
And this has been a long time ago. We're talking probably a year.
At least.
At least a year. And I started noticing things that were different. And then I looked that up, and I found the Mandela Effect, which is kind of a cool way to get into something when you don't get into it because you went to the website or something.
Right. It's something you figured out.
Well, it's kind of like the way we got into the paranormal.
Yeah, it just sort of happened.
Yeah, we had the boogeyman come see us.
Yeah,
so
there you go.
But the Berenstain Bears, this one really frustrates me. My favorite book as a child. Now, I wasn't Travis Moulden, so my favorite book was not the Encyclopedia Britannica. My favorite book was Bears in the Night. The Berenstain Bears classic, and I still own my original copy that is torn to pieces.
Yeah, it's pretty shabby.
But that book has every good memory I have as a child. My parents didn't, not in a bad way, but they didn't read me a whole lot of books. Okay, they were sort of the, hey, you want to go see a movie? They were that that type of family.
Right.
But Bears in the Night was the exception. All right, so I usually had the choice between Bible story or Bears in the Night. So Bears in the Night it is, right?
There you go.
And that book, I remember staring at the cover. I remember staring at the pictures. I always liked the creepy stuff when I was a kid.
Right.
And that book to me was creepy, at least for half of it. The Berenstains were not spelled the way that they're spelled now.
Right, with the stain, like the AIN, right?
Yeah, it was not STAIN. It was STEIN.
Berenstain.
Berenstain.
That's how I remember it.
And I remember this vividly. So I will ask everybody here. I hear one of you saying yes. So Stacey agrees with me. What about you guys?
Yeah, that's the way I remember it. The same way, yeah.
So both of you remember it that way.
STEIN, yeah.
Wow.
I figured they must have been German bears. Stain would have just been, that would have been a different kind of imagery. It would have been a different kind of...
Well, there you go.
I do remember it being Berenstain with the E.
Right.
I don't know. That's just how I always remembered it. But we even pulled out your old copy.
Yes.
Of the book.
Yes.
And it says Berenstain with an A.
Oh, it does. In vividness, it says it.
It's crazy.
It is crazy. So why don't you give us one?
Okay. Well, this one's kind of weird. And this is one I just found researching. It wasn't one I noticed like you. But it's about an island that is not now off the coast of Australia.
Right.
Supposedly, there used to be an island. People swear there was an island to the west, off the left coast of Australia, a pretty big island. And if you look at maps now, of course, it's not there.
Right.
And this wasn't just like a little tiny, maybe could disappear island. This
pretty
was
good sized land.
Big, pretty, And one of the pieces of evidence that they have that you can look at is the movie Dazed and Confused. If you watch the movie Dazed and Confused, there's a scene where they have a globe in a classroom. And you can look on the globe, and right there next to Australia is an island.
The landmass.
Yeah. So where did it go?
So this one's weird, and I'll tell you why. As a child, I had a globe.
Right.
And it was one of the cool ones with the mountains raised. So you could, I always put my hand over it and felt where the mountains were.
Right.
And I would, my uncle would always talk about, well, little John, we're safe because if there was a tidal wave, those mountains will stop us. Like, I mean, I always looked at this thing, right? And I remember that landmass so vividly. Again, I remember, but I don't remember a name. And,
I don't know.
I was talking to Travis and Alan earlier, and I know Travis said that he thinks he remembers the landmass as well.
Yeah, and I almost want to say that I thought that's where New Zealand was. And in doing this research, there is a group that thinks that New Zealand has switched places and is now southeast as opposed to being north of Australia.
Oh my God,
and
man!
Looking at the map, it just from what I do remember, it's about the same size in proportion.
I didn't. Now, see, I didn't know about that part.
Okay, so I didn't know that either, but I want to say this, and this is not put on or anything. I never put on. Earlier when we were talking about this, I wanted to say I used to think that was New Zealand, and
I used to think that I thought it was at least north of Australia, if not kind of off to the side on the left-hand side. But it's southeast. Even when what's his face was doing the Lord of the Rings movies,
right,
and filming in New Zealand, that's where I imagined it was north of Australia, and it's not.
And that's odd for fellers like us.
Yeah.
So I really thought that it was New Zealand. So that's very crazy.
Yeah. What about you, Alan? Did you remember
there is one thing that ties into that too.
What's that?
And that Australia is actually further west now. So it's actually that landmass that would have been to the left is now to the right.
Oh, you know what? I think I heard something about that, about people talking about Australia moving.
Oh.
Right.
I didn't think about that till just now.
Yeah, that's very strange. I mean, this is one of the ones though that kind of gets me because I can't remember it fully.
Yeah, it's not something that I experienced personally. So,
right.
But it's still cool.
Yeah, very very cool. And what about you, Travis?
A lot of the examples of the Mandela Effect seem to center around logos and advertising type things. And one of my biggest memories, one of my strongest memories of being extremely younger was learning to read, and I learned to read by spelling things out. There was the Oreo commercial with O-R-E-O spells Oreo, and another really famous one is the Oscar Mayer jingle.
Oh, I love that jingle.
And something that I found earlier today is there are some people that think it's spelled differently now than the way that they remember it. Now, the way that it is supposedly changed to is the way that I remember it.
Right.
But which is O-S-C-A-R and then M-A-Y-E-R. But they're saying that it used to be M-E-Y-E-R, which that blows my mind.
Totally.
That's like a complete name change. That's not just the shape of it, or that's a totally different name.
Right. You know, I used to sing that jingle as a kid all the time because of the commercial.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember how I sang it.
Yeah.
No, I kind of thought it was E.
My bologna has a first name. It's O-S-C-A-R. My bologna has a second name. It's M-A-Y-E-R. That's how I always remembered it.
And that's how they say it is now? So you don't remember it differently at all?
No.
How do you remember it?
Well, I honestly not well enough.
Not well enough?
To really comment on it. If you would have asked me how it was spelled though, because as soon as he said it, obviously our brains go to that.
Right.
I was thinking M-E.
I think I remember it by singing the jingle like Travis does with the M-A.
So basically, the lesson here is I'm a huge fan of E's.
I guess.
So it's really just the Mandela Effect is nothing. It's just a big controversy of
whether you can spell or not.
Of E trying to take over A.
Alan, do you remember that one from when you were a kid?
No, I can remember the Oscar part, but the way that the Meyer was, I'm kind of drawing a blank on that one.
That's interesting. I'd like to talk to somebody that thinks they really, really remember that one, because I'm fuzzy on it. I did sing it a lot, but just because I enjoyed spelling baloney because I thought I was really smart.
All right, what about you, Alan?
One that's pretty vivid in my mind is Billy Graham's death. And I know a lot of the Mandela Effect thing starts to actually center around the death of certain celebrities. But I remember this one because my parents, that was one of the things they did. You know, they liked watching Billy Graham. I remember talking to my mom and saying, wonder what they're going to do now that he has now died. Are they still going to know? Is his son going to take over, or what's going to happen? and I remember seeing the funeral on television.
Wow.
Then when it was happening. So I don't know if it was, and this is kind of a point that others had brought up too, that it could be that maybe it was his wife's funeral that I'm remembering, and it could be somebody else's as well.
Yeah, and I mean, the could be's are out there for all of these.
Right.
Right.
I will say my parents also are big Billy Graham watchers, and I was under the impression that he had passed away. I mean, I don't follow him, but when I think about it, I thought that he was dead already, and apparently he's not.
Right.
I think he's still alive.
I was never exposed to Billy Graham,
From what I could tell.
except for superstar Billy Graham, the former WWF heavyweight champion.
Different Billy Graham.
And really, going next here, since we're doing the roundtable of doom, I'm going to bring up another one that's very famous, and probably one of the ones, if you look up Mandela Effect, this is going to be the first audio bite that you hear. This one is from Star Wars.
Right.
Very interesting to me because I remember it a certain way because I'm a big pop culture guy.
Right.
So if you hang out with me or if you know me, you know this. You can't beat me at pop culture.
Right.
It's just one of those things. I know it from the 30s to now. And I'll bring up little things in conversation and jokes and analogies and everything, all based on pop culture. It's something I just love. So in Darth Vader, perfect way,
Right.
the big reveal in Empire Strikes Back, everybody remembers that shocking feeling when he looks over and says, "Luke, I am your father."
Right.
I mean, it's just big.
Yeah.
It's this big, monumentous moment. It's this huge moment, this big reveal. So especially people our age,
Right. That saw it when we were younger.
yeah, we were playing with the toys. Star Wars was one of the biggest things in our lives.
Yeah.
And so we know that we watched it a million times. We played it out, and
We set it into an electric fan several times.
yeah, exactly, exactly. Nice call, by the way. But Darth Vader actually says, if you go watch it now, no, I am your father.
Yeah. And, I distinctly remember we watched those recently because we were showing them to Ariana for the
Right.
first time.
Right.
And I remember getting to that part and both of us looking at each other like, that's not right. Is that right? That's not right.
What are
Right.
we watching? Yeah.
Yeah, and when you watch it back, it doesn't look like it's correct.
No, it doesn't.
And in context to even the conversation, it doesn't sound correct.
No.
Yeah.
And it really bothers me. And then there's these videos of James Earl Jones, who played Darth Vader, and he recites this not once but twice in a big span of years in between him doing this.
Yeah.
One of them, he's on some kind of talk show, and he's like, I couldn't believe it when I was reading the script and it says, "Luke, I am your father."
Yeah.
And then he's doing it again later on, and he says, "Luke, I am your father."
He's actually doing it in his Darth Vader voice.
right in his Darth Vader voice.
Yeah.
And it sounds correct.
And both times he says Luke, not
Yeah.
no.
And I don't want to cheat right now and use two, but I want to use another famous movie thing here,
Okay.
because this one, at first I was thinking, well, that's not right, but I was also thinking, well, maybe I just had it wrong because I hadn't seen the movie quite as many times.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And it was from Forrest Gump.
Yeah, that's a famous one.
So
Yeah.
in Forrest Gump, and the only reason I'm bringing this one up is because of evidence I've seen in the past couple of hours.
Yeah.
In Forrest Gump, he says, to most people remember it as, life is like a box of chocolates. Well, if you go back and watch that now, it says life was like a box of chocolates, which doesn't even make sense.
No.
I mean, that's like a post-mortem statement.
Right. Why would you say that?
It doesn't really make sense. And everybody and all the jokes, all the pop culture jokes, all the memes, life is like a box of chocolates.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is where it gets really interesting, guys. And I don't know if you've seen this or not. And I know you guys have been doing a lot of research. I seen this video, and we're going to post this video.
Yeah, I will.
Because it was we've watched a lot on this, and unfortunately, a lot of the research for this phenomena is through video. So we were watching this one short 8.5-minute video that this one guy does that he normally does health videos. He was showing this behind the scenes of making of Forrest Gump that he found. And in the making of Forrest Gump video that he found, poor quality,
Yeah.
it shows Forrest Gump on that park bench from a different angle. And it's like that making of camera that's never as good as
the actual film
as the
quality.
actual camera.
Right.
But he says it, and you can hear it perfectly. Tom Hanks, as Forrest Gump, says, "Life is like a box of chocolates," and it's on that video. And this guy's saying, this stuff it's a remnant. Will this be gone soon? But it's that same iconic scene, and he's saying it that way.
Mm-hmm. Very strange.
Yeah. And that one I love. And like I said, Stacey's going to post a link to this video because it's actually pretty daggum awesome. But
Yeah.
go ahead.
Okay, well, I'll do one that's from a movie as well. And this is a movie, I know you've never seen this movie, but it's Silence of the Lambs. And I've seen it a couple
Wow,
of times.
I can't believe you outed me on that.
Well,
Never seen Silence of the Lambs.
I know, right?
Okay, let's talk about that, guys. Let's just go ahead. She just outed me here. I'm a horror movie lover, buff.
Yeah.
You know that.
Aficionado.
Yeah, aficionado. The reason I never watched that one is because I can't stand anything to do with cannibalism.
Right.
And so I stayed away from that on purpose, as the same reason I never watched the Hostel movies. I don't like movies that are just gratuitous violence for the reason of being gratuitous violence.
That's why you don't watch Saw.
Yeah, I don't watch Saw, and it's not that I'm some super moral whatever, but I like horror to be horror. I like it to be something that is thought provoking, scary at the same time, and I don't mind the violence. Like Evil Dead 2 is my favorite movie, horror movie of all time. I don't mind the violence when it's done, for a real horror reason. And you could tell, like, I love Hammer movies with the bright red blood and everything. So yeah, I do stay away from those type of movies, but still, yeah, I've heard that I need to see that one.
Well, anyway, I've seen it a couple times. I like it. It's a good movie, but there's a part in the movie when Clarice goes to see Hannibal Lecter in prison. And what I remember, what a lot of people remember, that is that when she goes there, he says, "Hello, Clarice." But if you watch the movie, that line is actually not in the movie anywhere, nowhere.
Now, even I know that line.
Right. Pretty iconic line.
And people make the fun of, and they go, "Hello, Clarice." You know.
So that's not in the movie anywhere. But a lot of people remember it. And I think it's weird that everybody remembers a line that is obviously not even there.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've seen the movie. I thought the line was in there.
Wow. Well, what about you, Travis? Give us another.
Well, again, with the movie theme, back to Star Wars again. And I watched this today because I didn't believe it myself. And I know it kind of rattled both of us, at least the two of us. Well, all three of us, because we had a big discussion.
Oh, it rattled all four of us.
Yeah.
Yeah. C-3PO has a silver leg.
No, he doesn't.
In Star Wars, in A New Hope, he's not completely golden like all of our toys were, like our models were, like the comic is. At least in the first one, I didn't watch through Empire and Jedi today, but
yeah,
he's got a silver leg.
It's ridiculous.
It's so crazy.
It makes my head hurt.
Yeah, I mean,
almost worse than some of this other stuff we're talking about. It's just not.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about it is we know that movie so well that we could act it out and get almost every line correct. If the four of us wanted to play right now and we were 10 years old and we had Princess Leia and Han Solo and Luke Skywalker and Chewbacca, I'll be Chewbacca, it's fine. We could play that movie out and pretty much get it right, pretty close to being right. C-3PO does not have a bleeding silver leg.
No.
But he does.
He does now.
But he does. So, yeah, I feel you, buddy. And what about you, Alan?
So growing up, what's one of the staples that most kids eat? It's peanut butter, right?
Oh,
right.
So I can remember eating Jiffy peanut butter. Well, guess what? Jiffy peanut butter doesn't exist.
So did it never exist?
No.
So it's always just been just Jif?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, just straight Jif.
No. No.
There was also Skippy peanut butter.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But
I
it
remember
was
the Jiffy, but
Jiffy. I don't remember Jiffy. I remember Jiffy Lube.
Yeah.
And Jiffy Pop, but I don't remember Jiffy as a peanut butter. I remember Jif and Skippy being two different.
Well, there you go. There's two different thoughts on it. I'm pretty sure I remember Jiffy.
I don't remember. I'm not a big peanut butter fan, so I don't.
But, you know, on some of this stuff, it can also be suggestion. And if your mind does not have a full picture of what a full memory of it, if it wasn't near and dear to you, I'm sure you can have the suggestion come in and it fills in the blank.
Exactly, yeah.
Probably, because memory's fallible that way.
Yeah.
But, I mean, there's so many examples, and do you have any more you want to mention?
Well, I mean, you know, just going through it, I mean, the Volkswagen logo, it's not connected.
No,
And
there's a split in it.
there's a split in it that I never remembered being there. And I know you said as a little girl.
Yeah, I didn't remember because I thought I was so proud of myself when I realized that the Volkswagen logo was a V and a W, like inside each other.
Right.
I mean, I thought I was so clever for figuring that out. So I know there wasn't a split, because if there had been a split, it would have been obvious that it was a V and a W.
Yeah.
Yeah, unless you were just a stupid little girl.
I was not a stupid little girl. I was very intelligent.
No, I know.
Just want to point that out.
I know. And also in the movie Knocked Up, you can see a scene of them driving a Volkswagen.
Right.
And it's got a VW symbol on the front that is not separated.
I see. So you haven't seen Silence of the Lambs, but you've seen Knocked Up.
Well, I mean, it's all an education, you know.
Just kidding.
You know, and some people remember Fruit Loops with two O's.
Yeah, I don't remember that one. That was more Lucky Charms person.
Yeah, with two of the Fruit Loops actually making the two O's.
The O's instead of in the loops.
You know, Interview with a Vampire instead of Interview with the Vampire. I don't know how you remember that. I always thought it was Interview with the Vampire.
Yeah, and it's not that way?
No, the is what I thought. The.
Oh, you thought it was the.
Yes.
See, when you say it fast and you're used to saying it, it gets kind of.
There you
hear
go.
what you want to when certain people say it. Yeah.
And I will say, I didn't watch the show, but Sex in the City is the way that I remember it, not and the city. Sex and the City sounds like a whole different program.
It really does.
Yeah.
So
I remember Sex in the City. I didn't watch it either, but that just seems logical.
Yeah.
I don't know. Very strange. You know, there's a couple other ones that I had too that were, some of them are movie related and some of them aren't, like the movie Field of Dreams. You know, if you build it, they will come. It's supposed to be they will come, but for some reason now they're saying that it's if you build it, he will come.
Yeah, and that really bothers me because I say that one all the time.
Well, it doesn't make any sense because in the movie, a whole baseball team comes. Yes, he comes, but they all come. I mean, the whole thing is they will come. They all will come, and they do. Yeah. So I don't know. It's very weird because I've seen that movie a few times.
Yeah, I mean, I love that movie, and I use that whenever at my other life I'll be doing having people do something, and I'll as a joke I'll be like, if you build it, they will come.
Yeah. That's the line. And then of course people talk about the Snow White one, but I don't really know that one as well because I don't remember the original movie. Like none of our kids really liked Snow White as a movie.
The mirror as opposed to magic mirror.
Right. Like supposedly now it's magic mirror on the wall, and everybody remembers it as mirror on the wall, but I don't know about that one.
Right.
So
and there's a lot of theories out there that are being thrown about, and I'll just throw this part in there before we start delving into the rabbit hole that is the Mandela Effect. We've given you some examples now of the phenomena.
Right.
I think I can safely say that. And even in our group here, some of us remember it differently. So there is that can happen.
Right.
Obviously. But some of these are huge. Some of these are just, they just should not be the way that they are now. And some people have pointed to CERN, who we've picked on for years on this show.
I think that's like the biggest theory.
Yeah. And the Large Hadron Collider. Oddly enough, one of the side effects that people are kind of conspiracy theorists are throwing out there with the CERN is a bad case of tinnitus or ringing in the ears.
Right.
Now, about a year ago, I started having ringing in my ears and uncontrollable. I mean, just so loud, but not affecting my hearing as oddly as that is.
Right.
And it would just, it's just so loud when it happens. And I've actually talked to my doctors about this. There's nothing, medical. There's nothing with the side effect of medication, nothing like that.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of people, though, worldwide are experiencing this. They're blaming, some stuff that's happening with CERN. Now, that puts me on a whole nother level of consciousness here with, what we hear, and certain ones of us hear
Right.
more than others on a different frequency paranormally. And, from the other side, and the multiverse, if you will, the parallel dimensions. And a lot of people think that's what's happening with CERN is, sort of maybe breaking down that wall a bit with the parallel dimensions. And, there's even been people over the years that throw all the spirits we talk to into something from another dimension, from one of the parallel dimensions.
Well, I think the thing about the tinnitus, didn't we read something where a lot of people that have this Mandela effect report also having the tinnitus? Like they've almost made that connection where people that remember the things in a different way, because not everybody remembers the things. Some people just accept it the way it is now, and that's how they've always remembered it.
So there's a large number.
So I think there's a large number that put that in with, they also have tinnitus and they also have a lot of this Mandela effect going on. So it's kind of
especially the unexplained tinnitus. I can't say that word.
The ears ringing.
The ringing in the ears.
Yeah, the ringing of the unexplainable ringing of the ears.
Yeah, so that's odd. And like I said, I do experience a higher sensitivity than most people. And when it comes to the paranormal. So I would be interested in the fact is if some of these other people with the ringing in their ears also, what their level of sensitivity to the paranormal was.
Right.
That would be interesting to me. But, and we don't have to go round table here on this, but going to you guys, what's some of the theories or your personal thoughts on this? And I'll start with you, Alan, on this. What's some of the theories going around or the ones that you kind of have been looking at?
And we kind of talked about this a little bit, the confabulation.
Right.
Where it's, refers to a defective memory, basically, is what it's saying. That you remember it, but you just don't remember it quite like it happened, The only thing with that, though, is that could go for anything as far as, like, court cases, everything,
Yeah.
The way you see reality may not be the way that it is,
So it's a matter of perception.
Yeah, exactly. Right, exactly.
So is there any kind of explanation in that explains why so many people remember the things wrong in the same way? Like everybody remembers the wrong details, but they remember the same wrong details.
Yeah, and that was the one thing that me personally couldn't really find was the one thing that linked them all together,
Yeah, that is a good point. I mean, that's a very, to be C-3PO here for a second. I don't know what the stats are on that.
Right. Well, one thing I think is really odd is, we gave a lot of examples, and I know we all have more examples of the Mandela effect. And what I find a little bit odd is that we don't, like the way I remember things, it's not just one or two of these things. It's almost the whole list of examples of the Mandela effect. I remember a lot of these the wrong way. I mean, lots of them. I don't know. How about you? Is it just one or two examples, or do you remember lots of them the wrong way?
Yeah.
I had quite a few.
And so did I.
Yeah. So, I mean, it seems
I would say close to the majority of them, yeah.
It seems like people that experience the Mandela effect experience it for a lot of things, not just like one thing.
Yeah, it's full-blown.
Which is really strange.
Full-blown AIDS, not HIV.
Exactly.
And what about you, Travis, on the theory level?
Well, one of the things that I've noticed with a lot of the examples is that it has to do with the way things are said, the way things are spelled.
Mm-hmm.
And prior to the internet blowing up and becoming the hive mind that it is, a lot of what we remember we were told, whether it was when we were little kids or we heard it on TV.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody reads different. Everybody processes, I think, things a little bit different. Whether you were taught to read with phonetics or by each letter, however. So if you hear something a number of times, you get an image in your head of what that is supposed to look like.
Yeah.
But with the internet, where you can look anything up and see what it is, when it conflicts with what you thought already, then to you that is wrong.
Right. No, and that's very astute. I absolutely agree with that, and it's thought provoking. And so basically, in the information age now, kids will probably not have that type of problem because anything you want to know and many things you don't are at your fingertips with the internet. Whereas most of our stuff came from friends at school or from parents, but there again, it's such a massive level of misinterpretation. It's such a massive level of misidentifying.
Right.
And for every one of these examples to be so dead on for so many people to be wrong, it's almost unbelievable and at the very least very frustrating, because some of these, as we mentioned, and we've probably overused the word, are iconic.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, one thing I'd like to mention is a lot of these examples, like you said, are things that could possibly be just misremembered. But I don't think that all the examples can be classified under one reason. Like, I think, yes, some of them are being misremembered and some of them are this. But I think there are some that are legitimately very strange that are probably a different theory, that are probably not just misremembering. Like some of them, and one of them I'll point out, we didn't really talk about it, was the JFK assassination.
Yes.
Where a lot of people remember there only being 4 people in the car. But I think if you look at it, there's 6 people in the car.
I grew up on conspiracies, and I always remember 6 people.
And that's how it is now, right?
Yes.
Okay, so some people are remembering it with just the 4 people. Now, I don't remember it well enough to give an opinion on that one.
I think Travis and I were talking about this.
Yeah, and part of the reason that some people think about just 2 seats instead of 3 or 4 people instead of 6 is the Life magazine issue that came out after the assassination.
Mm-hmm.
They show clips from the Zapruder film, and you see 6 people in the car, you see 3 seats, presidential sedan, Lincoln Continental, I believe it was.
It was.
Right.
There was one page, though, that had a picture that was supposed to have been the crime scene. Had Jackie's flowers in the seat still, blood stains, both the doors were open. It only had 2 seats. You see the seat with the flowers and the blood stain, the trunk, and you see where the steering wheel in the front seat. It's a different car than is in the Zapruder film.
And also
the museum in Dallas.
Yes.
Yeah.
The car that's on exhibit at the museum that remembers the assassination in Dallas, that they say is an exact replica, is a 2-door, 2-seat regular sedan.
Yeah, and there's another one too that does what they say is an exact replica, that also just has the 2-seat. And now that particular one, I would almost want to throw out of the Mandela Effect,
right?
Because it's a whole entirely different problem.
Oh yeah,
and the problem with that one is, for those young enough too young to know or never really dove down that rabbit hole.
Right.
That's one of the biggest rabbit holes out there, kids.
Oh yes.
If you want to spend a couple of years, go crack open some JFK books. A lifetime, yeah. Magic Bullet, Grassy Knoll.
That's a whole nother conspiracy show, isn't it?
No, I mean,
the man with the umbrella.
Yeah, to me, it's a conspiracy fact. It's not a conspiracy theory. JFK was absolutely an inside job. And there is no way it's one of those where they slap us in the face with the overwhelming evidence of, you're going to believe it this way. And just to have the fact that there's a picture in Life magazine where they recreate something so grotesque.
Right.
It's just that one, like I said, hopefully if we ignite anything, if you don't like the Mandela Effect at all, go look up JFK.
Since we were talking about theories, I will say that I think that the CERN theory is pretty legitimate, just because they started using that Large Hadron Collider in 2008, and this whole thing, the Fiona Broom thing where she coined it, that was 2010. So it doesn't seem like there was that much before 2008 about this. Like, I don't ever remember hearing anything about it before. Maybe I just didn't know about it. But it seems like since that's been going on, since CERN's been doing the experiments, and they admittedly say that they're looking for alternate realities, other dimensions, that kind of thing. There you can find videos with supposed whistleblowers from CERN saying that they're doing things that they probably shouldn't be doing with the alternate realities. I mean, it's a whole wormhole. If you're looking to look into that, it's all quantum physics, and you can see hours and hours of information on it.
Yeah,
but I think it's a legitimate theory that should be considered.
And also, I don't know about the rest of you listeners, but go back to 2008. What was your life doing in 2008? And then what happened in 2009? What happened in 2010? What happened up to now? I know for me personally, one big thing in 2008, I was like basically the witch hunter of psychics. In everything I did, I wanted it to be based on hard, factual, scientific method evidence. And I wrote papers on the scientific method when it comes to paranormal, because I didn't want paranormal to be a circus, oddly enough.
Or a sideshow.
But, now obviously I'm almost entirely metaphysical. Because in 2009, my life went topsy-turvy.
Yes.
And I ended up having some crazy events happen to me that caused me to have a different level of sensitivity, we shall say, to the paranormal and to the veil. That changed my entire paradigm toward the subject. And, I know Travis as well, just because I know him so well, also had a lot of changes from that time period. And they turned the machine on in late 2008. So, could it be correlation there? Could it be, could that be it? Well, absolutely it could be. Is it? I don't know.
No, I don't know.
But the whole thing with the parallel dimensions and the quantum physics, you're right. I mean, it's a lifetime of theories and what ifs and
explanations.
And even a story we had not even a couple of months ago about the ritual that was captured on video of the CERN employees.
Oh yeah, the fake human sacrifice thing.
The fake human sacrifice, spirit cooking, so to speak. I mean, that was out there at CERN, and like I said then, I'll say it now: you don't just play around with stuff like that.
Right.
So, that's not something you just do on a Friday night for kicks. So
that's true. Well, so we've talked about perhaps everybody's just misremembering. And then, of course, the CERN thing. But there's other theories that people have thrown around for the Mandela Effect, too. Some of them being that the theory that we're just living in a large computer simulation and that it's being glitched or hacked or
somebody's hacking. What do you guys think about that one?
Yeah, I don't really buy into that.
You don't buy into the computer simulation?
No. I mean, sometimes you get off and you get to wondering, maybe we're somebody else's, pet project or whatever, or somebody's, just terrarium pushed off to the side of the room or something. But as far as like a computer one, I just can't really get behind that one.
No, me either. But a very smart man that I worked for, he was convinced before it came mainstream. I remember when the mainstream story came out. It was Wes from Haunted South. When this mainstream story came out, he sent me a text and he was like, "See." Because we had some long conversations about, in the realm of paranormal, he's a big computer programmer, and he's excellent. He is incredible at websites and apps and code and all that stuff. And he was the one that told me before it was ever out there. He was like, I really feel like we're in a computer simulation, and he would give examples as to why he thought that was the case. Now, me personally, absolutely not. And one of the main reasons is what we all do, the paranormal.
Right.
Could that be glitches in the system? Yeah, but no, because we speak to intelligent beings and we get intelligent answers. There's just more to it. I believe in, a creator.
Right.
I believe.
Yeah, I don't get behind the computer simulation one either. I don't think that's the answer.
I believe there's a lot of nerds that would love it to be the answer.
They just want to be living in the Matrix. That's all it is.
Yeah. So hopefully their collective consciousness doesn't make that happen.
Okay. Well, there's one more theory that I came across that I think is kind of interesting, worth mentioning, and it's the time travel theory, the butterfly effect, that at some point in time there has been some kind of time travel and someone has gone back and changed something, and it's just changed a lot of things. So
Don't do it, Marty. Yeah. So, Travis, I'll throw that one to you.
There was a time where I would have chalked every bit of this up to science fiction, and then it started in 2008, like you were just talking about. It's kind of when I went from a little less skeptical to believing a little bit more. And time travel was one of the things that it probably took me the longest to think even maybe about.
Right.
But I don't know, maybe.
Yeah, I mean,
One of the videos I watched today was a speech from 1977 by Philip K. Dick.
yeah,
And he pretty much said, maybe not so much a computer matrix, but that we were a show basically for some beings, whether they were higher humans or from another planet or whatever. But the movie Adjustment Bureau was based on his story. A lot of the Matrix movies come from his ideas, and in this speech, he said, you can believe me or not, but this is what happened. This is what I knew was going to happen. It's like there's something that is not. I can't quote him verbatim, but there's something on the outside of us that watches and has some amount of control. And if we get out of that control, then that's where the glitches happen. That's where the deja vu happens, because something's had to have been reset because something didn't go right. So I'm with you. I find the computer simulation or the computer matrix very hard to believe. Yeah. But interdimensional beings kind of keeping tabs on us and kind of directing us a certain way, maybe.
Yeah, I mean
that, the times that we've come into contact with things and caught resistance from it, is that the other side, like we call it, coming back at us because we're starting to violate something? I don't know.
Well, I'll tell you this, before I ask Alan about his thoughts on the time travel part. I wasn't going to say this, but I'm going to say this, and I'll make it, compacted. When I listen to the Spirit Box, and I'm an avid listener of sweep frequencies, it's my favorite way of communicating because it's live and it's, real time.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I hear two different things. I don't know if it's because of my gifts or if it's just because I listen to that thing way too much. But I hear the main answer that people are looking for. I hear that come across like the 1928 or, go to hell.
Yeah.
I hear that, but at the whole time I'm listening, I'm hearing almost this other plane that's just continuing. And it's nearly too much to even try to put out there. And I don't ever put it out there or try to capture it and say, well, here's this selection where I heard something really strange that was being very mean to me. And it's always things that are being very cruel and very mean. And they're saying things that are very personal. And it happens when I'm listening to, the Frank's Box. And when I'm doing, and it's not real time. That's the weird thing. When I'm sitting on an investigation doing it, I hear the yes. Okay. How long have you been here? 10 years. How many spirits are in the room with us? 7. I hear the same thing as everybody else. When I'm reviewing it with my headphones and I'm sitting there and I'm getting into that world and I'm getting drawn into it, or almost meditation is what occurs. And you guys have done evidence. You've done the 10 hours review of tape. You get into a meditative state. And when I do that, I hear this other stuff that I didn't hear before. And this is really getting out there, but as far as parallel dimensions, I almost believe that there is some stuff out there that we're not supposed to be hearing, but it's not the stuff that we're getting, when we're saying, how long have you been here?
Right.
Like it's a whole different thing, but that's because I'm crazy. So
I get the same thing.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Before meeting you, I had a box, but I never really experienced the box. Does that make sense?
No, it does.
Mm-hmm.
So after that, I started delving more into it, trying different ones. And the more and more I listen to it, I can listen to it now, what's been recorded. And then I'll come back like 2 weeks later. And it's not what you hear, it's just what's kind of under. Does that make sense? Kind of like under the static frequency, I guess you would call it.
Holy cow, man.
Yeah, that's exactly what he hears, I think.
That's exactly how I explained it to Stacey.
Mm-hmm.
And it's underneath. There's a layer there. and,
Right.
and it's underneath that layer. So you're experiencing the same exact thing as I am. And
And the whole thing, you're the one that got me into it. So I don't know if that,
It must just be
rubbed off
if-
or what.
Yeah, maybe it's just if you listen to it a lot, because I know I can listen to it. And I don't hear the same thing Dawn hears, obviously, but maybe it's something where if you listen to it a long time, you just get tuned into that extra frequency.
Or like Alan just said, maybe one of my demons jumped off on him and
maybe you've contaminated him.
opened up the eye. You know what? There's always certain things that make that third eye open.
Mm-hmm.
I know we've veered way off course, but
I think we have, yes.
But we kind of, me and the guys were talking before the show, and we kind of knew we were going to veer off course a little bit.
I feel like the director, like the shepherd. I have to like corral you guys into the topic
shepherd.
and like steer you
Well,
in there.
speaking of shepherds, I want to talk about another example with Travis.
Okay.
Travis, the Bible passage.
Isaiah 11:6.
Yes.
Yeah.
So explain that one.
Well, a number of people, myself included, have always remembered Isaiah 11:6 as, "And the lion shall lay down with the lambs," or something to that effect.
Mm-hmm.
However, and I this is one of the first things when I first jumped down the rabbit hole yesterday or the day before, whenever it was, I went right to, because I've got at least 3 different translations, and it does not say anything about the lion until verse 7. And verse 6 says the wolf will live with the lamb. And then when it talks about the lion, it says the lion and the yearling will eat together or something like that. Yeah. So it's not at all the way that we remember it. And I can remember growing up in a few of the different churches that my dad preached at, they'd have the picture of this, majestic lion laying down with the lamb. And
Wow.
Yeah, see, I remember that too. I went to church a lot when I was a kid. I remember the lion and the lamb together.
Yeah, and I think the way that it was explained to us was the lion represented Judah, the old covenant, and the lamb was the sacrifice of Christ, the new covenant, and that the two would come together. But, when you throw a wolf in there, the wolf, as far as I know, has never really been.
No.
It's not really a biblical animal, really.
No, it's really not.
Like, I don't remember wolf in the Bible at all.
No, I didn't either. And that's why I knew when, I threw open my American Standard or whatever it is that I just was looking at, that it was going to be, there's no wolf.
Yeah.
But there it is.
Right.
And your dad was a preacher.
Yeah.
So
yeah. I did Bible Bowl and all kinds of stuff. I was, Sunday school every Sunday, and so you would think that I would remember
right
if there was anything about a wolf. And that's just one of many. I found another site that had just a ton, about as many scriptural changes as the other changes that we've been talking about. And that, I don't know. I mean, that shocked me because like we said, I don't remember the wolf ever being in the Bible. But as far as the Mandela Effect goes, there are so many translations of the Bible,
right.
And there have been, for years. And man translates, according to like King James, what a lot of modern evangelicals go to was written biased to King James.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's very archaic language. It's hard to read for a lot of people, and it's easily misinterpreted just reading it as it is, let alone the fact that it's got that royal bias on it.
Yeah.
So, a lot of, especially early American evangelical churches, people didn't read their own Bible. They kind of went by what the preacher said from the pulpit, and maybe whether the preacher might have learned everything. People would memorize the Bible pretty much, and just that whole oral tradition thing again, where it's basically, it could be a lot like playing a game of telephone, and you hear something so many times, and you put your own perspective on it. The word again.
Yeah.
And it just, you make it what you think it should be.
Mm-hmm.
And if you pass that along to somebody else, then they're going to take their perspective on it. I don't see the changes in Scripture over hundreds of years through various translations and interpretations as really being, I have a hard time associating it with the Mandela Effect like we do the rest of this stuff.
Right. I kind of agree with you, because I feel like that is something that maybe was handed down as a story, like you said, like as an oral thing.
Yeah.
And people just started saying it that way, and then it caught on.
I agree and disagree at the same time. The thing about it is, I think the big part that people are having a problem with is remembering there being a picture with the lion laying with the lamb.
Right. Well, Travis said he remembered the picture.
Right. And now there's, people are finding wolf with the lamb.
That's the oddest part for me. Like, I really don't ever remember hearing anything about a wolf being alluded to in the Bible.
And that can be said for all of this. Can it all be explained in some way? Absolutely.
Absolutely.
You can explain most of it in some certain way. The problem I have is when you have 30 examples of huge memories for a mass amount of people.
Right.
And we all remember it incorrectly. There is something to it. That's the whole reason we're doing this episode. In my opinion only, I feel that there's some tomfoolery afoot.
Yes, I feel like there's something to it.
So, and on that, I want to go final. That's my final on everything. I'd like to go Alan, and then Travis, and then Stacey.
All right. So, usually I'm kind of the one that's more rational on different things.
Yes, you are.
That's why we keep you around, Alan.
But let's kind of jump off the edge of the cliff for a second. Let's say that this collider, all right? Let's say it is doing something, and what comes out of that is making everybody else forget the old way. But the ones who have some type of, whether it's they're closer to the veil or they're easier to not manipulate, that they can actually keep some of the bits that actually was,
Right. The people that are more awake.
Too far off, but so I think it's a possibility that there is something that's going on that's causing some people to forget, but some of the ones to still retain the memory because they still don't know how to reset them yet.
Right.
I agree.
And Travis, what about your final thoughts?
Kind of along those same lines. It just, to what extent is this gonna, is like you said, is stuff just gonna keep disappearing until, eventually the ones that do hold on to the remnants are gonna be gone, and then it's so basically the ones coming up, the ones growing up, the ones that weren't exposed to the remnants are basically a clean slate. What kind of outcome is that going to have? I mean, are they going to be that much easier to control? The ones that are, programmed by their pop music and their, incessant commercials and their junk food and their hormones and all that is just kind of, how's this going to end up is kind of maybe the creepiest part of the whole deal.
And to jump on something you said earlier, I will say this, because of the internet and because of this being, today I have friends that I could talk to in Germany every day with no problem at my fingertips, in Australia, in Russia, wherever. The thing about it is the information that we have, there are more people woke up today than there were when I started doing this show, even 6 years ago. 6 years ago, I had people look at me like I was Hitler when I said some of the things I said, but now it's so much. It's still a small, minute part of the population that are awake, but there are people that are awake, and a lot more than there were. And could we have stopped, to some effect, the people experiencing the Mandela effect? Could we have stopped this from happening? Could we have slowed this down?
Right.
Just from the mere mention of it, because this episode is not going to change. This episode is not going to go away, and all the other episodes about it are not going to go away. So, hopefully, eyes open, and that we stay awake on this. And Stacey?
Right. Well, I just seem to think that, we've talked about all these theories about, and of course, my favorite theory is still the CERN with the collider and that the experiments that they're doing. But we didn't really touch on the fact that, what if they know what they're doing? What if this is something that's being done on purpose and that they're just changing minute details to see how many people notice, to see how many people actually say, wait a minute. And, just to test the waters to kind of see if they can make changes without it being noticed. And that's not something we even talked about or touched on, because that's a whole nother thing. But it is possible that this effect, they know what they're doing, and that's why it's just been certain little, because people question, why is it just a line in a movie, or why is it just a
To
little
see-
thing, a
For God's
title.
sake.
But maybe it's to see if anybody notices. Maybe it's to see if they
Yeah.
can get away with it. But also, you don't know that this isn't happening on a smaller scale. You don't know that Bob in Denver, maybe he had a brother at one time and now he doesn't. But people don't know that because they don't know Bob in Denver.
Right.
Do you know what I'm saying? It's not a big scale thing. Who knows? Who knows what's really going on or how far it spreads?
All I'm thinking of right now is Gilligan from Gilligan's Island. So, because you said Bob Denver. So,
Sorry, that was not intentional.
so I hope Gilligan
I'm
is.
glad I wasn't the only one.
Yeah. So, Fred and Ward, so absolutely, I get what you're saying. And I want to say, we'll bring it all back now. So everybody out there who just, had your brains melt out the side of your ears, Alan, Travis, thank you guys so much for giving up your time and coming on to the show. Love you guys. And you guys are our brothers and part of our small little family here on the show. And hopefully you'll be back with us soon.
Anytime.
Yeah, enjoyed it.
Thank you. All right. It was so great having those guys on the show.
Oh, yeah.
The longtime partners of ours. And even though we do the John and Stacey thing, definitely that's our go-tos because, everybody needs a bigger team sometimes.
Yes.
And they're always going to be the extended members of the team. So,
Yes.
love having them on the show. Two very intelligent guys that have a lot of research, and they did a lot of research for the show too. So that was great.
did, yes.
So do you have anything to add? Are we done? Or?
Well, we probably should be done, but there's a couple more examples of this Mandela effect I want to mention just because
I know it frustrates you.
I was so frustrated looking some of these up because there's so many that I remember wrong. But one of them that really got me was the Monopoly Man.
Right.
Because I played Monopoly as a kid a lot. It was one of
Yeah.
my sister's favorite games. I hated playing it. I never won because she always won, but I played it a lot.
Right. Did you ever finish?
But yeah, all the time. Because it
Wow.
was one of her favorite games.
Nobody
and she
finishes.
beat me like really quickly because
Wow.
I wasn't that good at it. But anyway, I'm just not ruthless. I'm just like, yeah, you can have a free ride on my property if you don't have the money. I'm just too nice. So anyway, the Monopoly Man, the way I remember it, he has a monocle.
Yes.
But supposedly now he does not or never did have a monocle. And I just find that really frustrating because I distinctly remember on some of the cards that you draw, the community chess cards, the chance cards, that, things would happen. He would be surprised or whatever, and his monocle would go flying off his head. I mean, I
Right.
remember that.
Right.
But I looked it up. I couldn't find one single example of the
So
Monopoly Man with a monocle.
Did you see other people that are remembering having the monocle?
Oh, yeah. A lot of people.
I remember the monocle.
And I even watched this one video. Like I was actually watching videos while I was doing my research too. And he was going through newspaper articles where they were talking about different Monopoly events and things where they had the monocled mascot, and
Right.
that's what they called him. And I do remember that, but you can't find
The
picture
only
of it
thing I
with the
can say
monocle.
on that one is another icon,
right.
Mr. Peanut.
Yes.
Has a monocle and a top hat and a cane.
Yeah, but Mr. Peanut and Monopoly are not really related things. How would you even?
Well, just because, I don't know, just a mashup.
Maybe.
The rich guy, because of that, you're thinking that the rich guy that's out in the, owning the oil baron.
I guess,
It-
and you think of rich people with the monocle.
If you're going to have the top hat and you're going to have the cane, then you're going to have the monocle.
I don't know. I really do remember him with I don't know. But other than that one, there was also the one with Curious George. And I wasn't a big Curious George fan.
Me
The kids
either.
weren't either. But I'm pretty sure that monkey had a tail.
I'm not a Curious George fan either, and I did see this one, and I will say, I remember that squirrely tail, and it wrapped. It was like it came out and it went around and
Yeah.
around and on itself.
Well,
and
the thing is, monkeys have, I mean, not all monkeys have tails, but I'm pretty sure Curious George had a tail, but he doesn't have a tail now. And I don't know. I mean, like I said, I wasn't a huge
There
fan,
again,
but
yeah, and I'm with you on that. That could be, or it could just be where we don't have a good enough memory because neither one of us like Curious George.
it could be. And the one more I want to do, because this one I do remember, is Peanuts. The author of Peanuts, Charles Schultz.
Right.
I distinctly remember his last name Schultz being spelled with a T in it.
Yeah.
Being spelled SCHULTZ.
That's how I remember it.
But that's not how it's spelled.
That makes no sense
if you
at all.
look him up now, it's SCHULZ, which is like Scholes.
Shoals.
But I know it's Schultz with a T in it.
Yeah. There again, and that's something that
And he signed all his comics. Like
you always seen it.
you've always seen that.
Yeah,
And that
yeah.
one is one I do remember that's different now.
Well,
So frustrating.
That's what the cool thing about this is. If you guys out there have any other examples, please please send us a message with it. We have a lot of you send us news all the time and send us all kinds of things to talk about. This was a request. Actually, Travis, and we knew about this for a while. I've even mentioned it on the show.
Right. Because of the Berenstain thing.
Yeah. And Alan had said before, you mentioned it on the show, didn't even name it a long time ago. But it's funny because Travis got a hold of me. This was the first time that he noticed it was a couple days ago, and he was just dying. He gets a hold of me, him and Alan both at the same time on a group message. This is how funny our life is.
Right.
They get a hold of me and they're like, we got to do this show. and it cracked me up so much that I'm like, you know what? Absolutely. Let's do it. But if you have anything to share with us, then I tell you where you need to share it. Do you have any ideas, Stacey?
If you had mentioned it once or twice on the show before, I might know. But since you've never mentioned it, I have no idea.
ParanormalSideshow.com. That's your address to go to find everything Mandelsky. Facebook.com/Paranormal Sideshow. On the Twitter, it's @Sideshow97. On Instagram, hot damn. It's John and Stacey Edwards. On YouTube, search Paranormal Sideshow. And if you are listening to us on iTunes or anywhere you're listening to us, however you're listening to us, if you can subscribe to that and you can leave us a review, please do. It means so much. We will never ask for your money.
No.
We will never play commercials on you.
No, we won't push things off on you or anything.
That's not who we are.
Just our website. That's all.
Yeah, that's not who we are. So for my lovely wife, Stacey, my name is John Edwards. So long from the Sideshow.
Good night.
My name is John Edwards. So long from the Sideshow.
Good night.